Hello and welcome to another episode of Lee Judges TV. I'm your host tonight, Dan Potts, and I'm with Lee Judges as always, and we are going to try our best to break down what was a very disappointing game of football last night. It was very similar to Brighton in my opinion, apart from I didn't get half as soaking wet. The football was dull, the football was boring, it was unattractive yet again, and people will say that we scored 2 goals, but it was very, very hard to watch in my opinion. I thought personally we started the game well and it looked like we were going to start to see some attacking style of football for the first 10 minutes. And then once we got that goal, we just seemed to sit back for me and allow Palace to dominate us. Lee, I'm going to ask you a favour if I can first, but before I do that, I'm going to welcome everybody aboard. Thanks everyone joining us nice and early. Welcome to you all. Good evening to you in the chat. Please hit a like and subscribe onto this video. And if you can, head over to Sally's artwork and order some artwork off of her on her Facebook and Instagram. Sally's artwork. Me and Lee have ordered some, so you will see it coming very, very soon towards the end of October. And we're going to hang it up and show us. And hopefully you can help support her with her artwork. Lee, I'm going to ask you if I can go first because I've got a few things that I just want to talk about. And then I'm going to bring you in. I saw this manager get appointed and I don't think that there was many people around me that wanted him. But his first interview or his first press conference won a lot of people over. He was saying the right things. And like Unai Emery, who was left with a little bit of a puddle to clear up from Arsene Wenger, it could be said that Mikel Arteta was left with a little bit of a puddle in terms of removing some of the culture. So I was happy to give Mikel Arteta some time towards the end of that season. And at the end of that season, he proved to me that he can get the team up for big games. And he went and won the FA Cup and the Community Shield, whether you call that a trophy or not. I personally don't. But he won both of those trophies. And everybody thought it was going well. Everybody looked forward to the summer transfer window, which to be fair, everyone was fairly okay with. Dani Ceballos kept, which a lot of people were not complaining about due to him having such a great end to that season in the FA Cup. We bought Thomas Partey and Gabriel. And it looked like things were going towards somewhere. Edu and Arteta wanted to get the men through the door, and I think apart from Husam Aouar, they managed to get pretty much everybody they wanted. Then we started the season pretty okay last season. Beat Fulham, beat West Ham, beat Sheffield United, and then similarly to the start of this season, lost to Liverpool and Man City. And then after that, it went wrong after that at that win at Old Trafford. We got thumped by Villa. We lost to Leicester at home. We lost to Wolves at home. We lost to Burnley at home. And I was crying out for this manager to be sacked there and then because I could see little to no progress in the league and I was ready to say goodbye to him. And tried to get at the time a Thomas Tuchel who was available, who therefore went to Chelsea. But we didn't. We stuck with him. And he turned things around in terms of performances in January and Christmas time, where he was forced to kind of put Smith Rowe, Saka, Martinelli at the time, all in, and we beat a Chelsea side that, let's be honest, was dead and buried under a manager that was going to get sacked, little did we know, a few days or a few games afterwards in Frank Lampard. And then we started to go on a little bit of a kind of uninspiring run, let's say, but we didn't really see us pick up many positions in the league. We were just playing catch up because he'd already ruined our season. And I thought to myself, I don't want this guy here, but do you know what could save him? The Europa League. Win that Europa League, put us in the Champions League, and these fans will say, fair play to you. FA Cup in your first season, Europa League in your second season, fair play. Now when you look at it, that Villarreal game, that was a shambles, against our old manager in Unai Emery, was a sackable offence. But our board, yet again, didn't see it necessary to sack him, neither did the owners. So we stuck with him. Then we go into this season. They've backed him with £150 million to spend on players that he wants. We start the game, everybody makes the excuses against Brentford that we didn't have our team, so we got bullied and battered against them. We got bullied and battered against Chelsea, we got spanked 5-0 against Manchester City, and I was calling for him, how long are we going to give this guy? Let's please get him gone. Nope, everybody wanted to say he needs more than 3 games. It's his team, he's just been backed 150 million, we can't get rid of him now. Board agrees. Owners agree with fans, or the majority of the fans anyway. So we go into the next game and we beat what seemed like Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, but in fact was actually Norwich and Burnley by some of the people that were reacting fan-wise. I mean, it was unbelievable, the reaction to beating Norwich and Burnley. I've never seen anything like it, but it was absolutely epic scenes at the Emirates and at Turf Moor with the fan base, which I love because the fans are great and I think that they should be. But let's remember who we actually did beat. We beat Norwich with a real scrappy win over the line of a tap-in of Aubameyang, and then we got a free kick from Ødegaard, nothing else in the Burnley game. Then we come to Tottenham and we play 35 minutes of attacking football, the only 35 minutes we've seen all season from this manager, and everybody's back on side. Because it was Spurs, everyone loved it, and I've got to admit that I did as well. And sometimes you get carried away, as fans do, and they start to say, this is when we're going to turn it around. Then we go to Brighton, and it's in the rain, everybody says. It's not raining for Brighton, but it's certainly raining for Arsenal players, and we get a 0-0 result, and everybody says that's a good result. So then we have our international break, and we come into this game and everyone says this is the game that we're going to see what happens. We've got all of our players fit. This is a Mikel Arteta side. Patrick Vieira's coming back, so we want to make sure we don't lose this game. And Lee, I have to say that we were very, very lucky not to lose that game. But let me ask you this, because I've just rounded up the Mikel Arteta reign of Arsenal. That, for me, what I've just summed up there, is not enough to convince me to keep him into this job to say that he's the right man coming forward. There is no way I can see this manager lasting at Arsenal much longer for my own good, mate. Because what I saw last night was absolutely shambolic in terms of a style of football. There was no attacking play after that 8 minutes of football that we saw where we went 1-0 up. It was then back to the Mikel Arteta, very cautious. Let's bring on Lokonga when Saka gets injured. Let's not concede. Don't go for the 2 or 3 goals, nil win. Let's make sure that we keep this at 1-0. And then he gets turned over, and in the last kick of the game, we get a saving grace. And the whole crowd go mental. But I couldn't go mental. Yes, I celebrated the goal, but I couldn't go mental last night because I was so disappointed by what I think is going backwards and backwards and backwards. And we are playing at the moment, Lee, as we are in the league, a 12th or 13th place side, because we are one of the most unattractive sides to watch, along with Burnley. And we're actually worse to watch, in my opinion, than Norwich, than Watford, than Leeds, than Southampton. The list goes on. So Lee Judges, I've gone on a bit of a rant there on purpose because I want to get everything across tonight, because I'm going to ask you some questions in relation to Mikel Arteta's reign and where you believe he's going, because I'm not bothered about what happened at Norwich and Burnley and Brighton. I want to look forward now and see where we go, because I'm worried, mate. I am honestly worried looking at the way we're playing with what is his team. Edu has come out in an interview and said, judge this team and comment on them when you see this team. Well, I've seen this team, and it's just like the one that he previously managed, Mikel Arteta, and it's no different to the one that we won the FA Cup with, apart from personnel. We're still playing a boring style of football, and we're still not attractive to watch. We can't score goals, and everyone's going mental, saying we scored 2 last night. We did not do nothing to win that 3 points. We did not deserve to win 3 points, and unfortunately, mate, I can't see it getting any better under this manager. Lee Judges, I'll breathe now.
Well said. Listen, I'm looking at it, as me, people call me a flip-flop and whatever. I go for it game by game, and I look at it game by game. And what I see yesterday is a massive, massive worry for me. And I'll tell you why, Dan. Not because of the result and whatever. It was the way it unfolded. Started off like a train, scored a goal all over them. And as soon as we scored, I was watching Mikel Arteta. As soon as we scored, he put everybody to tell them to get back and get back. Patrick Vieira didn't do anything to change that game or change the course of that game. What happened was Mikel's tactics allowed us to. What he done was he dropped back and allowed Crystal Palace to take control of the game. For the life of me, those tactics are baffling. Now, people are always quick enough to criticise the players. They're always jumping onto the players, as you quite rightly said. Well, it's not his players. All of a sudden, it is his players. Well, and all of a sudden, Pepe gets criticised and everything like that. Yes, Pepe was poor. He wasn't poor in the first 10 minutes. He done well in the first 10 minutes. But then I'm watching. I sent you a photo of it yesterday. He then, for the next 3/4 of the game, was on the toes of Tomiyasu, playing right back. They played both right back. It's incredible. Now, what then happens is that we go 2-1 down, and in the last 10 minutes when we go for it, we're all over them again. So no loss in the midfield battle and whatever. It was down to the pure tactics of it. Now, 3 points I want to make here. I want you to go back to the first half when Ramsdale got the ball. He made a very, very, what I would say, risky pass.
Yeah.
Very risky pass into Smith Rowe. Great pass. The risk of that was unbelievable. Smith Rowe got the ball, went to go forward, no options going forward because all the players are behind him. He had to turn back, played it to Tomiyasu, who played it to Gabriel, who played it over to our left back. So for the risk of that, all we got was back to our left back. That is because we didn't have the players going forward. Right? Now, Partey and Saliba, I wish it was Saliba. Partey and Sambi were at fault for the 2 goals. But when Partey gets the ball in a very, very dangerous area, he looks at it. What option did he have? Where's Pepe? Alongside him. So it's a 5-yard pass to him. Where's Aubameyang? He's alongside him on the left-hand side. Where's Smith Rowe? He's further along on the left-hand side. So what he does then is he tries to turn away from that to go back, gets caught. We end up losing a goal. Then, exactly the same thing with Sambi. Gets caught because there's no forward-thinking option pass. Because you know why, Dan? They're all behind him. So the midfielders have not got options. So we're receiving the ball in dangerous areas with no outlet. And that is why we're getting done. Now, I'd love to bring up a graphic of it all and watch it like, you know, when Pepe's got the ball or someone, and Tomiyasu's got the ball or someone in midfield, Pepe should be on the edge of the halfway line, standing on the line wide or just a little bit deeper, you know, pushing him on. But what happens is he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. They haven't got that option. Aubameyang, I thought, looked sharp yesterday. He was on the 18-yard box defending for a majority of that game. I took photos of it and I said, look, and I'm turning around to my mate and saying, if they do not change this soon, they will get done for it. Now, whatever you want to think about it, the tactics are very, very negative. You know, like it was negative against Brighton. And I can get that to a certain extent, and I can say, right, yeah, I'm going to support Mikel on this one because there was a chance of the substitution, Martinelli or Maitland-Niles, and he went for Maitland-Niles, like, yeah, and I get that to a certain extent, like, you know what I mean, like, you know. Now, Carl, you're saying in there that he got caught with the ball. Like, yes, they did get caught with the ball. The reason they're getting caught with the ball is because they haven't got any options.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I've played midfield. You know what I mean? Like, of course, you're going to get caught on the ball if you've not got an option. You know, and that's what I want you to say. Go back before you come in and criticise about things. Go back and have a look at the game. I've looked at the game. Have a look at the Ramsdale pass. The risk of that pass to get it to Smith Rowe, and then for Smith Rowe to come back and play it to his right back. It's risky football without reward, right? And yes, you are going to make mistakes in midfield when you're receiving the ball in your final third of the pitch. But by the way, if you've ever played football, it's a dangerous place to play. You've got to have a lot of confidence to pick the ball up in the final third and start turning and making passes and all that. If you have the options, it can work. But when you've not got forward-thinking players or the players that are going forward, the option ain't there. And if you're under the pump in midfield in a tight area, what's the outball? I'll tell you what the outball is. Put it over the fullback's head, get the defence turning. That was one of the things that we always said. It's not a great tactic, but it's a get-out ball. Get it over, get them turning, mate, and then we can get back up. But what the fact of the matter is, we haven't got that. So the ball is going back, straight back to their central defenders and going there. Now, I've shown you that photo, like, you know, when I put it on Twitter. Anyone who wants to have a look at it on Twitter, go and have a look at that photo, like, you know. We're playing Crystal Palace at home, right? Not Liverpool, not Manchester City. Crystal Palace at home. and we have all dropped every single player into our 18-yard box. Every single player is in our 18-yard box. It didn't happen for a second in that game. It happened for the whole game until we went 1-1, 2-1 down. And that was the difference of it all, like, you know. And that is my worry. Now, Mikel Arteta's come out and said, you know, we was trying to hang on for the. I watched him yesterday, guys. When we went 1-0 up, I sat there and watched him, and he was telling everybody to get back, get back, get back, get back. Not go forward, not go forward, not go forward. Now, as I will agree with him to a little thing about the Maitland-Niles one, keep the point, we're away from home. We're 1-0 up against Crystal Palace on yesterday, and we've got Sakharov, who's an attacking player. He's a wide player. Like for like. He's gone with that team, right? Yeah, and you can debate whether Pepe plays, Saka plays, or Martinelli, but we go with the two that he's gone. Once one of those players was injured, he then should have brought on another attacking player and gone for it. Now, people have turned around and said, oh, we was losing the midfield. We wasn't losing the midfield in the first 10 minutes when we was running riot against them. The reason we lost the midfield is because we dropped back, giving them all the space, and we let them dominate possession. So I don't think it's the case of they dominated against us. We allowed it to happen, and that was our problem. And I look at it now, and I'm scratching my head, right? And it's not just about the results, Dan. We were 1-0 up there, and I'm texting you. I'm texting one of my mates that's at home because the game was boring.
Yep.
It's boring to watch. There's no excitement. I pay a lot of money to go to the Arsenal like everybody else does, and there is no excitement. I'm not getting off my feet with crosses going in. I was in the first couple of minutes. As soon as we scored, it changed. And I don't want all that. Now, last season, they turned around and said our home record was as poor as anything, right? Yeah. Oh, that's because there's no fans. There's no. Well, the fans are back now have been magnificent, by the way. I will say this about the fans yesterday, and I don't know what happened yesterday. A lot of fans, whether it was a Monday night, just weren't up for it. And I say that also that I know a couple of my mates sold their tickets, didn't want to go. I had one mate who's got a season ticket who couldn't be bothered. Just said, "Oh, son, I'll let it go. I'm not going to go." I'm not criticising these guys. I'm just understanding. When I look at it and I think it's a pouring cold night, you know what I mean? They've probably had a hard day at work, whatever, like, you know, got kids and everything like that. They make the effort and go and watch football like that. I can understand it because I can say this now because of work commitments and everything else. I've not been going to a lot of away games, right? And I'm not missing it because I've got no enthusiasm to watch crap like that. Now, it's not just about winning games of football. You want to be entertained as well, Dan. And it was crap. The football was crap. It's boring. I watched for 2 minutes the left back get the ball, and then 2 minutes later, it was back with Tierney again when it had just gone 3 or 4 and round. Ben White actually stood on the ball. Crystal Palace weren't going to come for him, and he played it to Tierney, and I'm just sitting there, well, this is boring. This is boring. There's no invent. I look at the passion and commitment of Mikel Arteta to get Pepe back helping out Tomiyasu. Why hasn't he got that commitment and desire when he's going forward? Because when he goes forward, he sits down. When we ain't got the ball, I want you to watch this. Next time when you're at a game, when we've got the ball, he sits down. When we ain't got the ball, he's out there doing this, doing that. When they go forward, he goes and has a little rest, has a little drink and all that. That is not good enough. It's not good enough. Like, you know what I mean? You've got to now start looking at it and making up things from that. Now, I don't know what's the answer of it all because I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking to myself, I don't think that they're going to sack him. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. So what have we got? But I'll tell you what now, I'm going to say this now, Dan. It's been 10 years, right? I've not seen a decent manager at Arsenal Football Club for 10 years. Arsene Wenger's last couple of years, he'd gone past his sell-by date, right? Emery weren't good enough. Freddie Ljungberg coming was a disaster, and Arteta. Now, I give Arteta a lot of leeway, and I'll tell you why I did, because when Freddie Ljungberg come in, who's an Arsenal legend, invincible, those players didn't play for him, if you remember rightly, and I was right. That was it then. Players, I want them all out. I want them gone. You know, the players let down Arsene Wenger in his thousands of games. You remember at Chelsea and all that, like players' fault. Yes. Now he's got all these players in. He's got a decent goalkeeper, or it looks like a very, very decent goalkeeper for the first time. I've seen it under Arsene Wenger. Crap goalkeepers, you know what I mean? Petr Cech was probably the best in the last 10 years, and that says it all. I then see Leno coming, not great, like, you know what I mean? Right now, I see a good, decent goalkeeper coming in. I see central defenders like Gabriel. If Gabriel would have had Arsene Wenger would have had Gabriel in that team at some stage, we might have gone on and done something, because he's a decent enough defender. I see decent fullbacks at our club now, right? So we've got it. I've seen actually a defensive base, which is not too bad. It doesn't need to have its two wide players and centre forward backing up its midfield players to keep it going. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've got a midfield to support in Partey, by the way, who was poor yesterday, but ultimately he's done well. But all of a sudden, and I say this now, name me one attacking player yesterday, and I mean this, one attacking player that you could turn around and said, yeah, he looked good yesterday.
Maybe Laka when he come on for a few minutes. I'm struggling.
Laka when he come on, when I think at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest, Dan, with, you know, the shackles were taken off a little bit. But ultimately, yeah, and I think, do you know what? I've got to give him credit, because I think, you know, he come on and showed a little bit. Another little thing with Martinelli. Martinelli in the last minute or so, he had two players around him, three players around. Everybody just stood and watched. The crowd were going nuts.
Right? It was as if the players turned into the crowd, wasn't it? They were all watching him.
Yeah, they're just watching him. He gets a throw out of that, right? From that throw, we score, right? He deserves to be in the team after that.
Mm.
I don't really know where we're going to go. I don't really know where we're going to go. But it's no good bringing in Martinelli and people like that if you're going to play them as fullbacks.
No, I totally agree. And I think we've seen enough players now. You know, I was speaking to a couple of people earlier, and there's only Lacazette and Pepe from last night that have not signed a contract or been signed by Mikel Arteta. Everybody else has either been signed by him or has signed a contract extension through Mikel Arteta saying, I want you to stay. So there's none of this, he needs more players. It's the players that are no good. If you think the players are not good enough at this football club, then clearly the manager isn't, because the manager has brought them in. Let me bring this super chat in, and then we're going to bring some of our guests on. Lee, this is from Chaitanya, a regular listener and a regular super chatter. Chaitanya, thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate it. He's saying no progress. We've been dropping points at home since last season, and this is Arteta's team, and at the moment he isn't delivering. Chelsea sacked Frank Lampard for the same, and we may need to do the same. Lee, if I ask you this, what percentage of fans do you think believe that Mikel Arteta is the problem, and what percentage of fans do you think believe it's the players that are the problem? Well, where are we at now?
You can't say it's the players no more, because half of them are new players in there. Like, you know what I mean? The reason that the fans, and I do believe this, that are sticking with Arteta is because they were the fans that didn't want Wenger, hounded out Emery, and they don't want to do it again. And I get that. I get that that you know what I mean, like they don't want to be like that. You know, Arsenal, you know, we've got Russ coming on in a minute, and Fergus, you know, have been around quite a while. So they would actually know that Arsenal is not a sacking club as far as managers are concerned. We've always had long-term managers. So to be sacking managers is not in an Arsenal fan's DNA, right? So when it does happen, you know, I think, you know, there was a lot of guilt in a lot of fans when it was Arsene Wenger. Emery come in, and I think if we all be honest, like Emery was a lamb to the slaughter as far as I was concerned in that, like, you know, it was never ever going to work. You know, if Emery, I'll tell you this now, you know, this is a good question. I don't know if Emery had the backing of Mikel Arteta in a transfer window, what would he have done? He had no real backing. You know, he's the David Moyes of Man United. He was, like, you know what I mean. So you know, and then look at what David Moyes has gone on done at West Ham, what Emery's doing there at Villarreal. So they're not a bad manager. I just think he just wasn't backed. Now they're backing Arteta with everything they've got, and when I'm watching it, I'm not entertained. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest. You know what I mean? I honestly sat there yesterday and I was having a drink with a couple of guys, and they actually said, "Oh, do you want to have another one? Stay out here." Like, you know, I was tempted then. Tempted, not because, and we was winning 1-0. It was boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't emphasise how boring that game was yesterday. Now, and if I was like with all my mates and all that like that, I can't emphasise, how I felt yesterday.
Well, where are you now, Lee, with this?
Winning the game, we was 1-0 up at that time, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, God, I've got to go out in the rain. It was awful.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm with you, and I think everybody definitely knows where I'm at, and I have been
before he's watched that last night. You know what I mean? He probably think it was a good game. You know what I mean? I don't know, like, you know what I mean? So,
well, maybe we'll bring them on in a minute and see what I think. But I want to know where you're at before we get the guests on. I want to know where your head's at with Mikel Arteta in terms of his future. Do you think it's time to replace him now? Do you want to give him a few more games? Is there a timeline or a deadline you've got in your mind in terms of how many games left? Or do you just stick with him for the rest of the season?
I think he's done now. I can't see him coming back there. And someone's just said in the chat there about Arsenal fans of flip flops. Yes, we are flip. Do you know why we're flip flops? I'll tell you why I'm a flip flop, and I don't know ashamed of it, because do you know what? Deep down, I want it to work for Mikel Arteta. I am desperate for it to work. You know what I mean? Like, and I want it to work. So when he gets a good result, I'll go, yes, I want to get behind him. And then when I see that, I can't get behind it. So every game is different, you know what I mean? Like, but ultimately, every game I'm watching, my enthusiasm is being knocked out of me by not just, the results. Forget about the results, the performances, the game. I've gone at home, you know what I mean? Norwich, you know what I mean? We won 1-0. It was a bore fest. Burnley was a bore fest. Tottenham, fantastic for one half. The second half, you know what I mean? I'm all up for it, but because it was Tottenham. But I'll tell you, if I were any other team but Tottenham, I've been deflated after that second half performance because it was shocking. You know what I mean? I wanted us to go on there and do you know what? A decent side, and I mean a real top manager there, would have smashed them 5 or 6. But there was that conservative thing come back into it, and it is a worry. And yeah, I do that. I just cannot, after what I see yesterday, I cannot see Mikel turning it around. I just can't.
Fair enough. You know where I stand. Let's bring in some other people and some other opinions. We have, of course, Schooner Russ in the house and Mr. Fergus Keating from Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Fergus, how are you first, mate?
Yeah, a little bit tired after last night. I decided I'd wear a 1985 Don Howe-esque shirt for tonight's show because, to be honest, you know me and my opinion and where I am. I'm giving Arteta till Christmas, Jesus. And I think the football we played last night was...
Happy Christmas, I was going to say that, yeah.
was 1985-esque. Lee, just before we jump on, you said, and I took... not offence, umbrage is the right word. You said the same people who are backing Arteta right now are the people who didn't want Wenger and hounded out Emery. I'm one of those people who's still backing Arteta right now. I didn't want Wenger to go. I did think Wenger had his time and should have gone, but I never hounded out Emery either. So that's a little bit unkind.
Listen, a lot of fans did, Ferguson. I just feel that that's one of the reasons. I'm not saying it's every fan. But I do think there are a lot of them like that, you know what I mean? Like, and there's part of me, Fergus, I'm going to be really honest, there's part of me like that. You know, I didn't hound Wenger out, but I didn't want him there. And, Emery, as far as I was concerned, had to go. And I'm going to be honest, I've never lost any sleep over it. But it don't feel right. So I don't want it to happen again. I don't care what anybody says. When you sack a manager, I don't think it's a day and the next day to celebrate.
No,
you know what I mean?
I agree. And I personally, I thought Emery sacked himself just with things that happened and the way he managed himself. But listen, I'm not the host on here. I'll be asked questions.
No, and Ferg,
For
keep
once,
going
I'll
because I
behave
want to know.
myself.
I want to no, and this is why I've got you on, mate, because I know that your opinions are different to a lot of ours, and this is why we love it. It's all about debate.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I just want to see. I just want to see what there is at the moment for fans to, like yourself, that are giving the manager time. What is there that you've seen to come to that decision and say, do you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
I've got him. I've got till Christmas because I think this X, Y, and Z.
I've got till Christmas, not necessarily because of the man that's in charge. It's just because I don't think the continual changes of managers and Ross will probably touch on with the regime that we've got and the backing that they'll give. Yes, he has been backed. Emery was backed with a load of dross mostly, but the managers have been backed and money's been put in by the club behind them, but not properly backed. And I don't see us getting a top flight manager in Conte or I don't know, Steven Gerrard, Brendan Rodgers. You just name all the big names that you would hear out there. I can't see us getting one of those right now because I don't think we'd give them the money and the free rein that they want. I think we do need a little bit of a yes man. To be honest, I thought a future manager of ours was sitting in the opposition dugout last night, and maybe not straight away, but in a year or so's time, I thought Patrick Vieira done very well last night. And I'm not just taking last night's game in isolation. I watched how he brought it back and managed against Leicester as well, where they were down and out and buried, and he brought them out in the second half exactly like he took them out in the second half against us, and smashed us around the park. We were lucky to get away with that. I'm really lucky away.
Can I just come in on that point, Fer? Because I think it's a really good point that you've made there about Patrick Vieira. Now, he's had 8 games in charge of Palace, and I've seen a style of play, and I've seen him implement what I think is quite a possession-based game. Certainly dominated us yesterday without Zaha. I've been really impressed. Now, I think it's taken 20 months for Mikel Arteta, and nobody can tell me what our style of play is. So I think there's a problem there with Mikel, and I don't quite know what it is that he wants to do.
Two things that Vieira's got that Mikel hasn't got. The expectation that's expected of Patrick Vieira or anybody who steps into that position at Crystal Palace versus anybody stepping into Man United, Chelsea, any of the top sides. Okay, forget about where we are league position. We're still a top side in Europe. And secondly, Roy Hodgson actually done a really good job of building a base from a bang average side, a really good side. Okay, yeah, it was very Zaha heavy, but they had some really good players in there, and they sold some players and brought in other players, and they were doing a bit of the money ball, a bit like some of the smaller sides do, and that's what they've done. Vieira's been around in different leagues. He's also had some experience with the City side of things. He's gone over and done and dealt with experience and the weird setup in the MLS. And he's come back with his experience as a footballer. I think he's done well, but it's only 8 games. It could all fall. We all put them as relegation. Most of us put them and Southampton as relegation candidates, even with Vieira there at the beginning of the season. He's done well, but the 2 points are. The basis that Roy Hodgson put in the first place. He was never dynamic, but he was always consistent and built a really good base. And any builder will tell you, I'm not a builder, but any builder would tell you, a house is all about the foundations, and that's what he has there. And secondly, the expectations that are expected from a club like Arsenal in comparison to a club like Leicester, Brentford, anybody else are completely different.
No, fair play, Fergan. You've made some good points there. I think what I will say lastly before we let Lee come in with asking Russ some questions and introducing Russ, of course, first, is I think my last point, Ferg, about this is when you say you'll give him till Christmas, that's fine. We get that point. Do you think by Christmas another season could be potentially ruined? And do you think that we might get to Christmas and think we should have got rid of this guy earlier so we could have tried to save our season and have a chance of European football? What's your take on that?
I'll spin that on you and the others if they want. What were your expectations at best this season? 6th, maybe at best? Did you ever think we were going to get relegated? I don't think so. I know we toyed with like bottom 3 and stuff, but realistically, did we ever think we were going to get relegated? So are we going to ruin another season if we stick with him till Christmas? We're just going to end up mid-table, mediocrity, no European football, and a base for somebody else to start with. He is building some sort of base. Yes, I'm not happy. Yes, I hear your frustrations. I hear Lee's frustrations. Christ, I read them on all the WhatsApp groups all the time. but I do really empathise and understand people's frustrations and aspirations. But we are not a top four. The worst club in the top four, Man United, and we're miles off the pace from them at the minute.
Fair play, Ferg. Lee, I'll let you introduce our other guest. Who's your first favourite of the show?
It's my main man, like Russ. Did you get home all right last night, Russ? That's the first thing I've got to ask you.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. You know,
How's your voice?
Listen, Russ, me and you, we talk football and everything like that. And, I've got a lot of respect for you and your opinions and all that. But forget about the manager and what position we're in. Like Fergus there turning around and saying, give him to Christmas and all that. Like, what is your thoughts on the way that we're playing? Watching those games of football, surely that's enough to be worried.
Yeah, I've been worried all season, to be honest with you. It's a strange. We're a strange team, aren't we? A friend of mine said to me earlier on today, he said, when you press, he said, you've got to press from the front, and you've all got to press as a team to make the way that Manchester City and Liverpool make them tick, to make them effective. If they don't press, they don't win those games. And we don't seem to do that. But then we don't seem to sit in a low block and counter-attack either. We're sort of a halfway house. Massive big gaps between our midfield and our defensive line again last night. Benteke coming out and getting the ball and feeding his midfield players easily. No one coming out with him. Why wasn't someone delegated to come out and follow him? There's little things like that going on which just baffle me as just an observer, a fan. I'm sure as a coach you would tell your defender if the centre forward keeps dropping into the hole and nicking the ball and feeding an on-rushing midfield. Surely you've got to go and stop that. Surely you've got to go and put pressure on him, and we just didn't seem to do that. It took ages for him to suss that out. That's the lack of a captain on the pitch, I think. I think we're desperately in need of a proper leader on the pitch to sort those things out. All these blokes are playing professional football. They're getting paid a lot of money. Surely that they can tell when something's going wrong. They've played all through youth football. They've played all through as apprentices, etc., etc. Why can't they work that out for themselves? Why do they have to be told? They shouldn't have to be told. They shouldn't have to be told they've all got pressed together. They shouldn't have to be coached that. I thought you made a brilliant point about his defensive coaching of the team from the sidelines and then sitting down like it wasn't his job as soon as we were trying to attack. We're just neither one thing or another. We're not a counter-attacking team because when we do a counter-attack, we're so slow and we're so indecisive with our final ball that we normally end up messing up and getting recounted on. So many times this season I've seen us have opportunities to really cause damage and just not make the right decisions. It's very frustrating to watch.
Russ,
can I have my bit on Arteta?
Yeah, go on, go for it.
I'm the same as Fergus, really. I just don't want to see another manager sacked without good reason. If we went and lost 5 or 6 games on the bounce, like we did last year, for the second year on the road, then I'd say, no, enough's enough. We can't expect 2 young players to come out of the backstage door and come on the stage in the glare and perform like those 2 do. They got us out of the hole last year. Make no bones about it. We was in for a very, very sticky 3 or 4 months after Christmas if we hadn't won those few games when Smith Rowe and Saka came into the team. Saka looks worn out to me. He should have been rested. He looks absolutely knackered. I know he's injured now, but he should have been rested. Pepe, I don't know if it dawned on people, but he put the winning cross in for the header, for the knockdown for Ben White. A brilliantly whipped in ball with his left foot on the left-hand side of the pitch. This is a major bugbear with me and the manager, is he will not put square pegs in square holes. He's trying to do what other managers have done before in the past and accommodate certain players in the team at the expense of the team ethic and the expense of the team shape. And football, as you know, is a simple game. Well, I think we've got to get back to some basics. If you're going to press, everyone's got to press. And if one of them ain't pressing, the captain's got to say, "Oi, you, do your job. Don't be lazy. Do your job." And I'm afraid there's too many on the pitch. Just seem to be ambling through games to me. They're not pressing.
Do you think, Russ, as well, obviously Saka on the right, Pepe on the left, we're not seeing it enough. Actually, Pepe made both the goals last night. He was really poor, by the way. But he created both the goals. So, again, on that left-hand side, we've seen Pepe play there, and we've seen him play pretty well. But he seems to not want to do that at the moment. And I find that bizarre because I think Saka balances the team quite well on the right-hand side. And Pepe is naturally left-footed. And he's always cutting in on his left foot on the right-hand side, which is so predictable and frustrates everybody. And although he was poor last night, and he's a player that I do like, and everyone knows that I do like, but on the left-hand side, I'd love to see him more. And the manager doesn't seem to want to do that at the moment, Russ.
Yeah, and another worrying thing is that Kieran Tierney seems to have lost his pounds.
Good point.
Very worrying. I think he's another one who's suffering from being overplayed. He's played all those Scotland games in the international breaks. He's played virtually every game for us, other than the first game at Brentford. He didn't play in the first game at Brentford, did he? I think he was injured, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And we've got a good understudy in Tavares, however you want to pronounce it. Why isn't he sort of rotated? Because that left wing back in position is very, very important for the way we play. It's extremely important. We're just not as effective when Kieran Tierney's having a bad game. We just aren't. We're just not the same side. So much to the back end of last year was coming down that side with him and Saka combining. Him and Odegaard at West Ham, I think it was, when we turned that game around. You know, that is a major concern for me, that he seems to have either got fed up or burnt out, one of the two or both. His body language was brilliant.
I want to bring you in here with that one, Lee, because we had Aubameyang and then he had some problems off the field and he was absolutely firing for us on all cylinders. And then he just seemed to regress. We've seen a few players that people are saying have regressed under this manager. Do we think Kieran Tierney is now the next one to start regressing, or is he just going through a bad patch, do you think?
I think with Tierney, I just think that he struggled on his fitness a little bit. Like, you know, the trouble is at this moment in time, if you've got a back five. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, you've got to keep the defence together, keep it going so it can work together and everything." And then you're saying, "Oh, I've got to give someone a rest or whatever." We haven't got, which worries me about Tierney. Imagine if we was playing Champions League football or European football and whatever, like. His body ain't going to be able to last all those games. So you're going to have to get someone in there that's going to play those sort of games. At the moment, we've got no European football. You know, we don't hardly play midweek games unless they're a Monday night. So he's realistically got time to recover and things like that. Yeah. So it is a bit of a worry on that. I just don't think he's playing that well at this moment in time. But I don't think it's too much of a concern at this moment in time, if I'll be honest. But a lot of these players are not playing well, and I don't know why. You know what I mean? And listen, people going on about, you know, should we sack the manager? It's worried because we don't want to get another manager. I'm not in that boat. You know what I mean? If he's not good enough, then see you later. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Can I ask you a question? Are you disappointed with Thomas Partey?
I'll come on to that, like, just in a second, because I am disappointed with Thomas Partey.
I just don't think he's the player we all thought he was going to be.
No,
my second question to you about that is: do you think he's been hung out to dry by the manager, by the formation we're playing?
Well,
in some games he has, but not every game. But in some games,
I think when you're at home, you know, and you're a good player. You can play that one player in midfield if you've got. It's not actually one player in midfield. You're still playing three in there. Do you know what I mean? Arsenal still play three players in that midfield.
They're
further advanced, and he's got to be based. You know, and it's a base. But as I said earlier on, as a midfield player, you've got to have options. You know, to play and pass and everything like that. But I don't think that I would say he's. I've been disappointed with him. I'm going to be really honest, Russ. I thought he was better than what he was. When I watched him at Madrid, I thought we was going to get this monster of a player, but it hasn't panned out to be that. He's a decent enough player.
How many players, Lee, have you seen come over from Spain, Torreira, and there's plenty of other players that gone to other teams that all look monstrous in other leagues, but when they come into the Premier League, the wet Wednesday in Stoke, that the usual sort of adage that they talk about, they're absolutely crap, and Partey has not shone at all. He's been consistently injured. I do question maybe our pitch and London Colney pitch, which we talked about before, either on this podcast or ours or other ones. But like Saka, Ross said he's been overplayed. I actually agree with that. Some people in the chat are saying overplayed after 8 games. He played in the Euros. He's played constantly for the last year and a half, and he's 18, 19 years of age. So some of these people need to just...
I agree with that. I think, like with Saka, especially we've got someone like Martinelli that could come in there and just take the burden off him a little bit. I don't see why
he was hung out to dry majorly last night, and I was extremely disappointed. One, Arteta did not want to bring him on. You could see where we were, Dan. He did
this
not
is
want
what
to bring
worries
him
me
on.
about it. This is what worries me about. This is what I'm saying, but you don't want to get rid of it. This is the thing. I'm not going on the results. People are going out saying that we're 5 games unbeaten. It's not nothing to do with results about Mikel Arteta. It's about performances, substitutions, the way he's going about things, the way the tactically we play games, the boringness of it. They're the problems that I see.
And Lee, I totally agree with you. We're just, I think, at different timelines and where we are at the moment, and different sort of motivations behind how we go about things with regards to the manager. Like, I think what the Martinelli thing, just to finish off on that point, he was left. He didn't want to bring him on. He brought him on really late. I do think the Saka injury influenced some of our substitution. They might have changed earlier. I think Pepe would have come off, who was a one-legged donkey. Yes, he did give 2 assists, but he's still a one-legged donkey for most of the game, and he was absolutely awful.
He's not a favourite of yours, then.
No, he's not at all. I never have been keen. I wasn't keen on the signing. But the other thing as well, what it did highlight last night, sorry Lee to overspeak to you, is the lack of strength and depth. We got a great starting 11. I think we got a decent starting 11, with the exception of Pepe last night. I thought it wasn't a bad starting 11. I think we've got the basis of a really good starting 11. But the squad, who did you see last night? Oh, right, we need a goal. Who you can get up? Bring on Lacazette. Yeah, he can take 8 shots and maybe score a goal. I like Lacazette's work rate. He came up to the North Bank. He got us all going, and he lit the place apart. Aubameyang is just... he's finished. He just doesn't want to be there. We got serious issues. And this is... myself and Trevor talk about on Guns and Yellow Ribbons, we talk about, yes, give him till Christmas, but Trevor talks about as well that he's probably one transfer window shy of getting to where he needs to be, and the pandemic and stuff might have had something to do with that, because we've sorted out a bit of the midfield, we've sorted out the defence definitely, and the goalkeeping situation, but the forward line, Aubameyang,
it needs to be addressed.
That's the big conundrum, isn't it? Do you give Arteta another load of money in January, and if it still goes wrong, then this is a massive decision now for the football club. Massive decision.
Well, who would you? Sorry, Dan, go on.
No, go on, Ferg. Go for it. Sounds like a good question, so go for it.
Yeah, who do you? Yeah, exactly. Who do you bring in, and that you would give a huge amount? And look, this is whether you go January, whether you go the end of the season. I can't envisage in 5 years' time we're standing outside Islington Town Hall or the Armory as it is nowadays, singing the best looking Spaniard I know, because
I'll never sing it. I never will sing that again.
but you get where I'm coming from, Lee. I don't think he's a long-term manager. I do think he's a transitional manager, and it's at what point does that transitional manager move into the next level? Some of that's down to the commitment of our owners, and the commitment of our owners is absolutely awful. If you compare the commitment... 2 seconds. If you compare, and I'm not blaming the owners, and I'm not blaming the players. I think most of this lies with the manager, which Dan must be sitting there going, Jesus, Ferg's changed. But I think
mate, opinions can change, mate. They can.
A lot of it, most of it does sit with the manager. But if you've got an owner like Abramovich, who will take no shit from nobody, excuse my French, and he'll sack the manager within, we've had a bad run. We didn't get Champions League final. We didn't get the Champions League. We didn't win the league. Sack the manager, next manager. We don't have owners like that. And until we got somebody who's going to be as ruthless as that, or back somebody going, there's 220 million, Frank Lampard, prove yourself. Until we've got owners like that, it's never gonna happen.
And I think you're bringing it on to where I want to close, but I do need to bring this super chat in because we are going to talk about what happens next with the manager and what we think is going to happen with the ownership and the board. But I'm going to bring this in from Sanjeet. Thank you so much for both of your super chats. He's asked, "Hi guys, great show, love it." We can all answer this one. If you could pick 3 invincibles to play in this team, who would they be? Lee Judges, let's start with you. Who are you going to go with?
Campbell, Vieira, Henry.
Campbell, Vieira, Henry. Going to Russ, let's come to you.
Yeah, Henry. I might be a bit controversial here. Ashley Cole. And I like Loren as well. I like Loren.
What, no Vieira?
No. Well, not for that.
Fair
I'm talking about to improve us now, not like just to be the best team of all time type players. Just players that would just improve us out of all sight.
Fair enough. Fergus.
I would say Henry, but hand the frog.
Let it go, Fergus. Let it go,
Hand the
man.
frog.
Let it go. You never forgive him for that, will you?
No. And one day I hope to meet him and just go.
Oh, I was sitting above
hand
me
the
or something.
frog. Yeah. I'd go
Jerry.
Vieira. I'd go Vieira. I'd go probably Campbell, and in place of Henry, Loren, because I do think that he was excellent in that position.
He was brilliant.
Fair play. I'm going to go with someone different. I'm going to go Patrick Vieira, who's not different. I'm going to go Thierry Henry, who's not different. And I'm going to go Dennis Bergkamp, because he's the best player to ever wear the shirt, and he would definitely give us some creativity, which we are so severely lacking, in my opinion. So it's going to be those 3. Guys, we are going to wrap it up towards the talking about the owners and talking about the board and talking about the manager and where we see going. Because one thing I do agree with Fergus on is that I am worried as to what's going to happen to Mikel Arteta. Is he going to be here long term? Are they going to sack him? Who are they going to bring in? All those questions. So I want to get a bit of a roundup from all 3 of you in terms of where we think we're going. One thing I do disagree with some of the fans is, well, who else are we going to get? We're stuck with who else are we going to get? There's lots of managers out there. It isn't just Mikel Arteta that we're stuck with. So where do we see this going in our honesty? Not what we want to happen. Where do we actually see it going? Because I think we all know what we want to happen. New owners, new board, new manager. But we actually have to look at where we're going to go realistically with this. So Russ, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to finish with Lee. I'm going to go Russ, then Ferguson, then finish with Lee Judges. So Russ, let's come to you. What do you think is going to happen? And what do you think some of the worries are for you, mate?
My main concern is they don't part with a manager soon enough, and we go for another transfer window, and he has another input of players, and that maybe some of the players that are here stalling on contracts don't sign because they don't like him. I mean, Lacazette said an interesting thing today. I watched back the end of the game. He said that we trust the manager, and he didn't bat an eyelid when he said it. So that tells you that the players seem to be still on board with what he's trying to do.
And I believe that, to be fair. I do believe that.
Yeah, although I think they struggle to implement what he's trying to do, but
yeah,
I think
that's clear.
Yeah, and my main worry is indecision from the board. I think they're incapable of making big decisions. They're reactive. They're not proactive. They'll wait until the end of the season, probably. My caveat to that is that would probably be a wise thing if they don't give them a shit ton of money to spend in January, and then they wait to see how things go and keep their powder dry till the summer. If we're close to getting European qualification, their hand might be forced. They might have to strengthen us to give us that chance to push on. And we are desperate for a centre forward, ain't we? I keep saying it. We are desperate for a proper centre forward, a big lump who won't be bullied by Dunk and Duffy and the other fella at Brighton. He won't get bullied by a big Virgil van Dijk. We need someone who's got a bit of presence about him and a football brain. We need Alan Smith Mark II, the most underrated centre forward ever probably played for us. We need someone like him. And if there's one about, there's a few names that get bandied about. We probably missed one, didn't we? Odward's that sort of type of player. Isak, is it?
Yeah, Isak. You've got Vlahovic from Fiorentina, Dominic Calvert-Lewin from Everton.
Yeah, Calvert-Lewin's a decent stamp. He's a decent
He's the
side,
one for me, Calvert-Lewin, or the fella from Juventus. Not Juventus.
Fiorentina,
Madrid.
Vlahovic.
Oh, you're
No.
talking about Jovic
Yeah.
from Real
Yeah,
Madrid.
I've seen when he played at Frankfurt. He roasted Chelsea all over the place,
Yeah.
but it hasn't gone on. So that's the sort of type of player we need.
But that
100%
if we can do that, then I'd say the owners have listened and the recruitment team's doing their job. This is a massive gamble this owner's taken with this novice recruitment team and this novice manager. As I've got on record before and said, I've always said that I never wanted Arteta. I thought the job was too big for him from the start. But as you rightly said, Lee, we've never been a sacking club. We've always, I started supporting him in '75. And I can only remember me. I think was it Bobby Campbell was here for a little while, and then it was Terry Neal, Don Howe, George Graham, Arsene Wenger. That's the only managers I've known.
Bruce Rioch in there as well.
Oh, sorry, Brucey Rioch. He was there for a year and a half, only 2 years. Yeah, that's the only manager I've known. So, and we don't normally sack managers until it's really too late. And this is the worry with me, is that we wait and wait and wait. And I'm like you, Lee. I want to see him. I'm an Arsenal fan. I want to see us winning games. I don't want to be sitting here frustrated that we're playing absolute tosh and that we're getting beaten by teams on budgets that are 1/10 the size of us. And not only beaten, but played off the park. I mean, Palace fully deserved to win that game last night. We were absolutely played off the park. We were played off the park at Brighton as well. I mean, these are teams that we should be playing off the park.
Yeah, and that's what worries me, Russ, as well, because when we were like a kind of Wednesday night up in Stoke, like Fergus referred to earlier, I always worried we'd get beaten and bullied up. And I did see us get a bit beaten and bullied against Chelsea and Brentford. But to be fair, that was our kind of second stringer team, or what everyone was saying, due to some illness and injuries. But actually, when I've seen this team, we're not getting bullied like over at Burnley or at Brighton. But we can't play them off the park like we used to now. So we seem to have gone to a different style now, whatever it be, because Arteta's making us a lot more harder to beat for whatever reason.
Can I just ask the question?
Go on, Russ.
Why is it we can't play them off the park? And I'll tell you why we can't play them off the park. It's nothing to do with tactics. It's because the players are not of the same standard we're used to. It's as simple as that. People saying that a change of manager will turn these players into something special. I disagree 100%. Some of these players just have not got it in them. The shirt's too heavy for them. Sorry. I'd love to be proved wrong. I'd love for a new manager to come in and turn Pepe into Ronaldo. I'd love it. But I can't see it happening. I just can't see that happening.
Fair. I mean, I disagree. I think there are managers out there that can do a lot better job than Mikel Arteta. I don't think the team is nowhere near as bad as some people are saying.
That's a different point, Dan. The point I'm making is, if we had good players, no matter what the coaching was, we would still be able to give these teams a game and play them at football, not at tactics, at football, and beat them in a football match. Tactics are more for conservative, getting the most out of players. That's what tactics are for, in my opinion. Not always about tactics.
The reason for that, Ross, though, is
we play football and you beat them by playing football, not by tactics.
We're missing players like I refer back to Pepe, Aubameyang. Odegaard was short last night. There's so many players, and it's the quality of players that we've got, not the. I don't know. I think we're missing one or two key players, and I'll go back then to transfer windows, and maybe do we need another one? Not necessarily with Arteta, but we definitely need at least one more window.
I suppose. Just so people don't think I'm a complete idiot. Arsene Wenger used to send teams out, right, with these instructions: go and play football and enjoy yourselves.
Oh, yeah, he did. But when you come up against a team just as good as that, you need tactics.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah,
No, fair point, Russ.
Fair point.
Fair point, Russ. Ferg, let's come to you before we start to come to a close. Owners, board, manager, what do you think's going to happen moving forward for Arsenal Football Club?
Well, owners and board are one and the same thing, because it's a dictatorship now, not a democracy. There is no board. Our old board members sold us out for Walmart shares and cheap Asda tickets. What do I think? I don't think the Cronkies have any inhibitions whatsoever. I had the fortune or misfortune to speak with Josh Kroenke, and he doesn't look interested at all. He's got Vinay by his side, and he's just an accountant counting his beans. And you've got his grim reaper of Tim Lewis, the lawyer behind the scenes, that all he does is make people redundant, look for cost, asset stripper, cost cutting left, right and centre. So under this ownership, I do not see us moving anywhere forward whatsoever, regardless of who's in charge. Under this manager, I think I alluded to earlier, I can't see it being a long-term solution, but I think it is an interim solution that we may have to stick with longer than yourself and Lee will want. But I do think we'll have to stick with it longer than many of us will want. I hope it's not to the stage we get the toxicity that we had before in the stadiums, because I don't want to see that. Because the atmosphere, you'll all have to agree, this season within the stadiums. Great. Last night was a little bit flatter, but it's a Monday night, and there was a lot of strange faces around that you wouldn't normally see. But it's been fantastic.
Well, like Russ,
I wouldn't.
That's a strange face.
Listen, I've got that in my ear to stop the blood pouring out while he was standing beside me singing, shouting and singing before the game. I'm surprised you've got a voice today, Ross. It was like, oh, so good.
I'm classically trained, Fergus. Classically trained.
Love it.
Classically trained.
You just go out for how many lungs. I am one of the loudest people down there. I'm one of the loudest people down there.
You're the loudest one down there.
You are the loudest one, mate. 100%. No, Ferg, absolutely spot on, mate. And do you know what? I fear you're right. I do fear you're right, because I'd like to see change. I think a majority of fans would like to see change with the ownership. Certainly, manager is a little bit more 50-50, but I think people are more towards wanting to change the manager. Before I come to Lee to wrap up, I'm going to give my say on it. I think the only way this manager will get sacked is if the fans want him out. And if the fans want him out. And I think, unfortunately, Ferg, I don't want to see that happen, because it's horrible watching that at a ground and going to the Emirates and seeing the toxicity that is the Unai Emery and Arsene Wenger that we saw not so long ago. I think that's the only way that the board are going to wake up and listen and say, well, the fans aren't happy. He's got to go. He's lost the fans, because the fans have the most powerful voice, if believe it or not. A lot of people don't believe that we do, but they do. I just wish that we could actually hound the owners out, because then I would rather Kroenke go than Arteta go, and I want Arteta out. Everyone knows that. But if Arteta go,
So Dan, then why not use the platform you've got here, the platform the other channels have got, to use that energy more and direct it more and unite against one central thing, which is
because it doesn't work for us.
Yeah, but the owners are the cancer of our club. It doesn't matter. You get rid of the owners, bring in Conte. If Conte's not given the money, it doesn't matter. If you bring in,
I admire the optimism that I can make change, but I think I kind of need some help, really. So I haven't had the help. I was there with Russ and with Lee and with the others, and it was great against Everton. And then we all clapped the bus in the game afterwards. Stan Kroenke was there at Brighton, and I didn't have the privilege of going to... Yeah, neither did I, Russ. And then no one turned up to the Brighton game because it rained. And then the people that did go in the ground, Josh Kroenke was there, and they all took selfies because they were finally back in the ground. So it doesn't work, Fergus, unfortunately. The fans don't want to unite.
I get it, but you understand where I'm coming from as well.
Yeah, I do. I totally get it, and I wish we could do it. I've been crying out for fans to unite, but they're too busy wanting Robbie Lard and AFTV out instead of Stan Kroenke, and they're too busy wanting to fight between themselves and do we care, do you, and fight about about that not being right, and then shout at people on podcasts and say they talk nonsense, and then go on Twitter and slag each other off. So unfortunately, we've got a fan base that is very toxic, that doesn't want to unite, but they all seem to want Kroenke gone. But what are we actually doing about it? Are we stop going to games? No, because you lose your season ticket. Are we going to walk out of the game? No, because you might miss the game. Are you going to stop buying the merchandise? No, because I want to buy the shirt, and that's what I believe and I should be doing since 1970. I've been buying an Arsenal shirt. Why should I stop now? There's always a no, you can't do that. So that would be my reply to that, mate, is that I'd love to do it. And, I thought it was excellent against Everton. I really did. That was the best protest we've seen.
Can I just say something about the Kroenke out theme?
No.
Go for it, Russ.
We were let down. we were let down. Listen, Arsenal supporters, you know when you say, oh, Arsenal supporters won't get behind something like that because they're very fragmented and there's lots of different little opinions, there's lots of different supporters groups. And I think Arsenal fans, there's a lot of Arsenal fans that go to that stadium, go on their own or perhaps with their partner or with one mate, and they go to the game, they watch the game and they go home. Then you've got the next level supporters, not any better or anything like that, the next level supporters that are like us, are very sociable animals, and we all stick together and we all go and have a beer together and we talk like this on these things, and we are more agitated because we all talk to each other and we all feed off each other, and we're more agitated and more aggressive towards the ownership. A lot of those people are like what you said, Dan. Oh, we can't get rid of them. They've got so much money. They're earning so much money. We're never going to get rid of them. That attitude.
They've given up, yeah.
That attitude has also been fostered by some of the big supporters groups like the Arsenal Supporters Trust, Arsenal Supporters Club, all trying to get in bed with the hierarchy when they had their annual general meetings and stuff, and trying to be all pally with them instead of treating them like the enemy they are. They are the enemy to us Arsenal fans, these people that own our football club. Make no bones about it. They're doing the bare minimum. People say, oh, we spent the most money. We've just had a pandemic, for God's sake. A lot of clubs are pulling their horns in. And, yeah, we spent a few quid because we hadn't spent tons in years gone by when we could have done. So, you know, use your brains. These people have bought these shares off the previous incumbents, the Hillwoods and the Nina Bracewell Smiths, who sold the club out to them for the money. And they paid very little for those shares compared to what they're trying to sell this football club for. They could sell this football club for the 1.6 billion or £2 billion offer and make fantastic profit on their investment, on their original investment, which was not invested in Arsenal Football Club. It was paid to the shareholders who owned the shares. Not a penny of that money went into the coffers of Arsenal Football Club. So get that one into our heads as a starting point. I'll get really emotional about this because
fair play.
How can you think as a supporter that getting £50 million Champions League every year, money, £50 billion Champions League is what the Kroenkes came here for? They didn't come here for that. They came here for the European Super League. They came here for that. That was their ultimate plan, their long-term vision. And when the pandemic came and all those other clubs were skint, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, they jumped on that as quick as a rash. And some of the others did as well. They've got no shame either. Abramovich and the Glazers and the Morgan Group, whoever it is that own Fenway Sports or own Liverpool, they all put their noses in the trough. He could have made a conservative £600 million profit if he'd have sold to Eck. £600 million. That's more than the £50 million transfer European Champions League money would have been every year for the past 10 years. He would have made more money if he'd have sold it. So he has an ulterior motive because he's not going to get European football with this way this is being run. So he must still have an ulterior motive. I honestly believe we are still knees deep in this European Super League thing. I just do not trust these people one iota. They're in it for money, and it's not the pitiful amount we could earn by coming fourth or by coming, runners up in a Europa League. It's big bucks from the ESL they want, the TV rights, and all that stuff. They're not interested in the
Now,
pyramid.
Lee, you now know how my ears felt last night. He went like
And that's
that.
why I said
singing
no. And that's why I
top-
said no. Like, you know what I mean?
top
Like, yeah,
volume
but
in my ears.
he makes some great points there. Like, you know,
He did.
Listen, no one knows what's going to happen. How I see it going to happen.
You
the
see
way
where I'm coming from, Lee, don't you? It makes
I
sense.
I
don't
do.
it?
I totally agree with it.
If you
I totally
purchase,
agree with it. The reason I've said it, like, you know, if they're businessmen and all that, they would have sold, because there's no way with Newcastle coming onto the block now. It's another
unless
avenue.
they think they've got a chance of making, because they're greedy. If they've got
Yeah,
a chance
so,
of making
yeah.
more money,
I reckon it's going to take a big bid, and I think we'll get rid of them. I don't blame them all the time on all that. Like, you know, I don't blame the Cronkies for that poor performance yesterday and the boring football that I'm watching at the moment. And that I'll be honest. But I'll tell you what I think is going to happen over the next few weeks. I think like this is going to happen until Christmas. Arsenal will win a couple of games, they'll lose a couple of games, they're putting poor performances like this, and gradually the fans are going to start. You know, I think there's a little bit of excitement that the fans are back in the stadium and all that. But if they're continuing watching that crap that I watched yesterday, they start not bothering going. And once they start not bothering going,
I do think you're right, Lee. There'll be more empty seats, and
and I think that's what's
wasn't as
happening.
many empty seats because of the pandemic.
I cannot go up and down the country or even the Emirates watching that crap football what I see yesterday. And we was 1-0 up, and I was bored out of my head. And it's crap, and it's boring football. And do you know what? It's boring and crap. And when you're not winning, it's even worse. So, and that's what will happen. By the time it happens, we'll be out of everything, mid-table, and dreaming of next season. And on that happy note,
yeah, on that very happy note, we are going to come to a close. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Russ, always great having you on, mate. Passionate rant as ever about the ownership and the way that our board and our owners are going. But thanks for coming on.
no, you
Well
done
done,
well,
mate.
I'll
You done
buy you
well.
a drink on Friday for that, for not drinking, for not swearing. Well done.
Good man. No, Russ, always a pleasure, mate. At GoonerRuss11, everyone. Make sure you go and follow Russ on Instagram and on Twitter. Fergus, always a pleasure having you on, mate. How can people follow you, bud?
On Guns and Ribbons Guns and Yellow Ribbons is our podcast. We had you guys on last Saturday.
Enjoyed that as well.
That was
Sunday.
really, really good. Yeah, episode 192, if people want to check it out on YouTube. It was really good. Very opposing opinions, but very balanced and fair in the way we listened and understood each other, I thought. And I think Trev summed up really well by saying we might all have different opinions, but we're still friends and we still have a beer together. And I thought it was really good. So, but yeah, you can find us on Guns and Ribbons, Guns and Yellow Ribbons on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks again, guys. Doing great with the channel. Lee, done, blown out of the water. Well done.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Lee, thank you, mate. Let's try and remain as positive as we can. Good therapy, mate. Yeah, that's it. Good therapy, mate. Thank you to everyone in the chat as well. Nearly 400 of you watching live. Fantastic. Good to see some regulars coming back as well. Thank you all for your super chats and for your interaction within the chat. Guys, let's hope that we can start to be a little bit more positive. It is very difficult, I'm not going to lie. But until next time, we'll see you. Take care.